Yeah, thanks, George. Cool. So yeah, obviously, if anyone doesn't want to be on the video recording or the sound, please, yeah, obviously pop off now. We've got the chat on here as well. So if you've got any questions as we go through, feel free to pop them in there. I've left some time at the end to do sort of a Q&A, so we can hopefully go through any questions that you all have. I'll move that over. Hopefully, I can share a slideshow. Is that showed up for everybody?
It's not quite there yet, and it's there.
Cool. Yeah, that's nice and clear. It's not too stretched or anything.
No,
Awesome, cool. So yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for taking time to join. My name's Jack, and today we're going to be going through making licensing and record keeping simple. Hopefully, we can try and stay compliant without some of the paperwork headache. So obviously, we're working with George from the ABRS today, and the keyboard's not working. There we go. Plan for today, so we'll talk through sort of a quick introduction. We'll talk through some of the licensing requirements. Obviously, you can't go through the whole list in detail, or we'll be here all day. We'll talk about some of the sort of record keeping essentials and some things to look out for. Then, obviously, the main point of today, talking about how we can make your life easier. I'll talk you through a case study and show you some sort of example pages from our system, some ways of how you'd actually do this in real life. And then, as I said, we'll do a Q&A and a discussion at the end. I think we've got someone else join. Hi, I can't see your name, but yeah, nice to meet you. So, like I said, my name's Jack. I run Equestrian Systems. We've been working with the ABRS for about 2 years now. We tried to build all-in-one stable management systems for riding centres, and we do that a little bit different. We try and make things bespoke and sort of tailor the system around what you need instead of sort of forcing you into some templated way of doing things. And obviously, the main aim today is to talk about why licensing and records matter. Obviously, there is a legal and regulatory requirement for you to do this. Everyone who is, teaching lessons on their own horses has to follow these requirements. And obviously, the aim behind these is to ensure that the safety and welfare of both the horse and the rider, is kept to a standard which is uniform across the board. Obviously, we have to abide by these rules because there are obvious downsides to not doing so. You'll be fined. There are penalties. There are other legal issues, as well as obviously the way that your centre would be viewed by the public potentially, which obviously the ABRS has mentioned a few times as the social license and how people portray the equestrian industry. And something else I'd like to sort of touch on today is how we can avoid the last minute panic before inspections. I know a lot of you will be quickly collating as much paperwork as you can. And obviously, the aim is if we can collect things as we go along, we can show everything at the end, and hopefully things will be a little bit less stressful. Although it's never nice to be audited, as I'm sure you know. That all clear so far? Everyone can hear me okay? Cool. So obviously, pain points of compliance. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this, but there are lots of different things that you have to collect. There are lots of different forms, lots of different sort of logs and records you have to keep, and then all the documents to go with that to prove or provide evidence for what you've done or have to do. There's the obvious downside that people may forget to do some of this. Obviously, you may have to then go back and retrospectively try and correct it or work out what was missing. There's obviously some risk associated with that. Some of the further risk is obviously things getting lost, damaged, or outdated. God forbid there was a fire or water damage to your paperwork. There's quite a lot of risk there about how you'd recover from that and deal with that situation, which is never pleasant. And then the dreaded GDPR, I'm sure you're all aware of, and there's obviously data protection requirements around storing sensitive or personable identifiable information, what I'll call PII for the rest of the talk. There's obviously lots of rules and regulations about this, and again, there's potential for risk of someone, suing or making a claim against you if you fail to follow those rules and regulations. So talking through some records you must keep. I'm sure lots of you will be familiar with some of these, but obviously it's key to keep your licensing and accreditation documents. Not only is it key to have these, but these can be a great way to actually, promote your centre and show that you're following these rules and which associations you're, accredited by. It's also important to keep your horse passports, the vaccination history, and the vet records for each of your horses. You should be able to find these whenever you need them. There's lots of rules and requirements about that as well. There are also some rules around your daily care logs to show that you have checked horses each day and any notes about any injuries or potential issues that are being marked about. And again, with your ride schedules as well, how many hours has that horse done? Can you show that they haven't been overworked and how they've been treated that day? And some sort of other sides to it as well. You've got your staff qualifications. So obviously you should be tracking when first aid, other background checks and things that you have to do as well. We should have a record of these and you should know when they need doing next so that you don't let them expire. You've obviously got your customer waivers as well. You may also have consent forms for things like photography and also the GDPR compliance around this. So can you show that you know all of the personal information you're keeping about a customer? Can you destroy it in a way that is, following the rules if they requested that? We also got your incident reports as well. So there's obviously quite a detailed report you need to take here to make sure that you're covered against claims. And you may need to keep these for a significant period of time. I believe some insurance policies have said that you are potentially open to risk for up to 10 years from these. Again, I can't offer legal advice, but that's a significant amount of time that you have to keep that for. Obviously, you've got your risk assessments as well, both around the rider, but also for other things around your centre, your staff, and other things as well. So I thought I'd take you through sort of an example or something to think about now, which is sort of keeping accurate rider heights and weights. Wrong button, sorry. So obviously weight records in particular matter for making sure that you're keeping your horse's welfare and safety, kept to a standard. Obviously, we don't want a rider which is too heavy riding one of your horses. Um, Obviously, encouraging riders to update their details is a key thing. I know there's obviously another side to it that you may need to check some particular riders. But again, children grow very quickly. If you've got some paper records which are 2 years old and the rider's weight is, not been kept up to date, you've potentially got a welfare risk here that, your horse may be carrying someone who's too heavy. Obviously, I'm sure it'd be obvious to a lot of you, but if you've got new staff or, other changes going on, there is a risk here that you may not see that has changed. And obviously, setting clear policies for weight and height limits is sometimes difficult. It's easy to have a maximum across all your horses, but I'm sure each of your horses or ponies will have a different height or weight limit for your riders. And obviously, trying to make sure that you're following those can be quite tricky, especially if you've got them all sort of manually written somewhere. So obviously, the talk or the aim around what we're talking about today is to talk about sort of how you can use digital records to try and improve some of this or make your life a little bit easier. So obviously with your paper-based, as we've sort of already mentioned, it's easy to misplace or damage them. It can be quite time consuming to fill them all out. And it's very hard to back up or make a protected copy of these. Obviously you could duplicate forms and keep them somewhere else if you wanted to, but that's fairly tricky to do. Obviously the aim behind the digital systems is that they're secure by default. Everything can be backed up. It's a lot quicker to go and dig out a piece of information that you need instead of having to rumble through your filing cabinets. But you also get that controlled access element as well. So you can limit which staff are able to see which documents. Again, with your paper stuff, you could lock stuff away in a drawer, but unless you've got someone there to work out who to hand the keys to or not, again, it's quite tricky to show that you have only given the information that you require to the staff who actually require it. So again, there's a risk element around keeping personal information in your filing cabinet. And as we've mentioned already, GDPR, lots of considerations here around paper records with that personal identifiable information. There are rules around making sure that that access is controlled. And then there's obviously the access, or sorry, the other side to it is how we dispose of that data. So people are able to request via GDPR what information you keep on them, and you should be able to produce that for them if they ask for it. In the same way, if they ask for their information to be deleted from your systems, if you do not have a reasonable reason to keep that information, you must be able to delete it. So again, that's quite tricky to show that you have destroyed something in a secure way or to prove that you've done that to somebody. Again, a digital system, it should be really easy to just wipe that information if you want. And that ties back to the incident reports that we mentioned before. Obviously, if you've had a rider that's been involved in an incident, you may need to keep that information for longer for your insurance. So obviously, it's important to be able to know which of your riders has been involved in incidents so that you could potentially keep that record instead of deleting it or tearing up that paper when it gets to a certain time frame. So again, there's lots to consider there about how long you need to keep that information and how we're going to do that. Cool. So again, talking about how we can sort of solve some of these problems or how we can make some of your life easier. So as we said, quick access to your records for inspections. If we can keep records up to date throughout the year, hopefully when you get to your inspection at the end of the year, everything's there and ready to go. We don't need to go and quickly put everything together or write a load of stuff up. Hopefully we've got it. We've done it as we went along, and instead of this sort of big bang load of work to do at the end, we sort of trickled it through with time. As we mentioned, digital systems to be secure, backed up, and we've also got storage for your customer and horse records. So everything's sort of kept and held together in one place. There shouldn't be some need to go and find, or where did I keep that, or things potentially getting lost or damaged. Everything should be protected and ready. So you've reduced that risk of something going wrong with the paperwork that you do keep. Um, Also making sure that things are consistent. My handwriting's terrible. I'm sure some of you have as well. Things can get written up and you don't understand what they are, or they're not written in the same way that you need them for somewhere else. It can be tricky to work out how some of these things go together. Um, so, for example, if you've had a rider that's involved in an incident, some of you might write on the top of their rider registration form that they've been involved in an incident, or maybe staple the incident report to it. But if someone forgets to do that in a consistent way, it'd be really tricky to know which riders had been in incidents or which not, or to find the incident report for that particular rider. I mentioned here as well about things being auditable. Obviously, with a digital system, we can track who changed what and when. So we can then go back and say, you know, Ben changed this on this date, and there may even be some information on why that was done. So basically, we can go back through the history and see why things were changed. So if we can question them and see what happened. Again, that's quite tricky to do with paper records, especially if you've got multiple people who can access them. Sometimes it might be ask everybody to see if anyone knows why that was done, which again can open up some risk. I mentioned this as well, the GDPR stuff, obviously disposal and retention of records. It's quite tricky to do this with paper. Obviously, I'm sure lots of you have shredders and you do go through this. But again, going back to that sort of rider that's been in an incident thing, if someone's asked you to delete their information, do you need to delete the incident report and their personal information? Do you need to keep both, etc.? You need to have a think about how you do that and how you make sure that you're protected against those rules. So I thought I'd talk through sort of a real world case study here, or a success story, as I like to think. And this is about a centre down in Gloucester who was previously using a paper rider registration system. I'm sure this is familiar to a lot of you. They'd come into the office, they'd physically fill out all their information on a piece of paper. This would then get filed away in a filing cabinet in alphabetical order. Um, Downside to this is it was hard for them to check that every rider had completed the form. So someone had rung them up, they booked in for a lesson, they turn up to the yard and go straight out to the arena. Unless someone had sort of twigged that they were new or that they hadn't gone via the office to pick something up, it was actually quite difficult to know if that rider had ridden with them before. The instructor was a bit separated from the office. And again, it opened them up to risks that if that rider was involved in an incident, they didn't have a record for them or any of the information that they needed for their insurance. Um, Another risk that they spotted was that the details they had for lots of their riders were out of date. Again, it relied on someone in the office to ask them, when did you last check your details, or someone to physically check when the form was signed to see when they was out of date. And they actually had a real example of this where someone had an accident and they weren't able to call their emergency contact number because it was out of date. It wasn't the right one anymore. Again, the idea with the digital system is it's a lot easier for people to pop in and change it, and we can see when people had updated their information. So we can give them a nudge if something looks old or it's out of date, and we can say, can you just check this over, please? So they've switched over to a digital system. They're now finding it a lot easier to find the registration details so they can quickly look things up. So when they do need to find information, it's quicker and easier. As we said, they then send out reminders to make sure people keep their information up to date. They also require the riders to complete the registration form in advance to be able to book. So again, that risk at the top about people potentially coming and riding without filling the form out has been removed because it's signed and filled out all online. And something else they wanted me to note was that they've needed to spend less time in the office. They found it less stressful. They can be out on the yard working on things that are actually important to them. Cool. I've learned through that probably a bit quicker than I planned to. But yeah, I thought I'd go through sort of a demo of how some of this may actually work for you in practice. So I'll talk you through some horse records. I'll go about how we can report on the horses and the hours and workload that they've had. How we can manage riders, like I said, how we can do a digital registration form where they sign against your terms and conditions and things online. We'll do some rider reports, see when their information was last updated, people who haven't ridden with us recently, etc. And then I'll talk you through incident reports and equipment checks as well, and how we can keep all of that digitized. So again, when we come to the end of year inspection, everything's there and ready to go. Cool. So I'm hoping I can escape from that and open this tab up. Does that still show up for everybody? Okay. I don't know if I need to minimize the window a little bit. It might be a little bit stretched. Let me, sorry, stop sharing. So I'm going to try and square it up a little bit because I'm aware some people might have smaller windows than I do. Is that nice and clear for everybody? Yeah, cool. Thank you. Cool. So, like I said, I work for equestrian systems. So we build online booking systems with the sort of full horse management and other management tools all built in. So I'll take you through this horse manager, what we've got here. So we've got some options at the top to mark when horses are available or not. So we can make sure if horses are out lame or off-site for whatever reason, we can keep track of that on here. We can show why, we can leave notes about it, and then we can make sure that someone doesn't book them in for lessons if they're obviously not available. But I've also popped in some example records down here. So if I open up Ben's profile, basically, this lets me store all the information I should need about Ben for my license. So it's all in here. It means any of my staff can pop in and find it whenever they need it. Again, when the license inspector comes, I can just show them each of the profile pages. They can read through the information and it should all be here. And again, you can pop on your phone. You can have multiple staff accessing this. It's basically designed to make your life as easy as we can. So there's some key things in here. I can set maximum rider heights and weights for each individual horse or pony. Of again, making sure that we're meeting the welfare standards here and we're not overloading our horses. Same, I can mark them as unsuitable for certain disciplines. If I don't want, I've got Ben here. I don't want Ben jumping. I can mark him off there. I can't book him in for any jump lessons. Again, you can set how many minutes you want that horse to be doing per day or per week. And again, that will then enforce that across the system. It'll warn you if you're getting close or you're going to exceed that. So you can make decisions on what's the best suitability for that. We've got lots of information. Cool, thank you. So the idea is you've probably got lots of this scribbled down and it's obvious to you, but again, some of your other staff might not be able to see it. So again, if you want to pop all that information in here, you can. You don't have to, but it's here if you want to be able to quickly look up something. Again, you can also store sort of due date and notes for each of the things that you may want to record for your license. So we've got farrier, dentist, wormer vaccinations, physio, saddler, anything you can think of. Again, you can pop that in here. You can choose to set due date reminders if you like. And again, you can then make reports to see when you need to next book the farrier, when the dentist is due, etc., if you want to. And again, with the notes, you can leave any keynotes you like on the front page, or you could pop through and you can add history. So I haven't got anything for Ben in 2025 yet, but I can add as many records in here as I like with the dates of what was done, any notes or any other history you want to leave in here. And again, it's all put in chronological order. So when your inspector comes to have a look through, they can hopefully see everything that's been done to that horse in the past. And again, it may help next time you've got a vaccination due. If the vet doesn't know what's happened, you can quickly show what was done and help them there as well. There's some other bits on your horses as well. If you want to leave things about what feed they have and other things like that, again, it's a good way to share that information between the staff on your yard. Anyone got any questions at that stage, or should I keep moving for now? Annoyingly, I can't see the chat at the same time I'm sharing, unfortunately, but yeah, it looks like we're okay. Okay, so I'll pop onto horse reports now. So the idea behind these is to have a look at how many minutes or hours the horses are doing per day or per week, or whatever view makes most sense for you. So I've only booked a few horses in here, so there's not too much data, but we can see how many minutes Ben, Cassie, Cookie, and Dimple have done this week. You can see we've not hit our minutes for any of the days. Again, this will flag up as red if things are starting to orange or red, if they're getting close or if they've exceeded those things. Again, we can plot graphs of this stuff as well to show that our horses aren't being overworked. And again, by using a digital system, all of this is worked out for you. If you make any last minute changes or retrospective changes to any of your allocations, all of that information is instantly updated. So again, you can then just show your license inspector, look, here's the history for whatever day, week, month, or whatever view you want to look at, and you can show that your welfare standards have been met. This is also a really useful way to make sure that you're balancing the workload between your horses. And if Cassie's not done any work this week, that's a key thing to maybe have a think about and see what you might want to do. Okay, cool. I'll pop onto our rider manager as well. So obviously, if you've got all your digital records online, it's really quick and easy to come in and search for a rider. You can also add them on their behalf and other things as well. But I'll just search for Jack. I can open up my account. So I'm looking at myself as an admin, which is a bit odd. But again, I can see all the bookings and riding and requests that this rider has made. I can see things about their level, when those things were changed, etc. But I can see and edit any of the user details which are in here. Again, I can see when they were changed, when things were updated. I can see when they signed the terms and conditions and other things as well. So the idea is this should completely replace any need to collect user information on paper. Makes it really easy to meet GDPR requirements on deleting things and making sure you're only keeping information you need. And again, this rider registration form is fully customizable. So if you want to know how people found you or heights, weights, things like that, it's all collected on here automatically. Next, I'll pop on to incidents. Again, I'm sure lots of you keep paper records for these as well. The idea with a digital one is we can create records for this. Again, then we can create reports on that so we can see which riders, which staff, which horses are involved in incidents. All of this is filled in and accepted online. So I can go back and see all my old incidents. You can see that I was involved in this one. And then you can obviously fill out the full sort of, this is based on the BHS's one, but you can change this to whatever you need. You can keep all of that information about what's happened all in this here. If you want to, you can even send this to the rider. So this will email a copy of the incident to the rider, and then they can choose whether they accept all of the information that's been put in there to be true and correct. Again, some insurance policies seem to want that now. So again, you can show that the rider is happy that you've recorded an accurate, representation of what happened during that accident. So as I mentioned earlier in that example, if you mark a rider as being involved in an incident on our system, if you then try to delete their information later, it will say, this rider's been involved in incidents on this date. Are you sure you want to delete their information? You may need it in the future. So again, it gives you that opportunity to have a think about what information you need. I'll pop onto equipment as well. That's another fun part of your license. As I'm sure you're aware, you have to show that you've checked things like your fire extinguishers and your fencing and other things as well. We've got lots of tools on the system for tracking things like horse welfare and horse care to show you've done that, but we've also got equipment managers as well. So you can basically add as many different equipment items as you like. You can set how often you want someone to check them, so your sort of check schedule. And then you can pop in here and mark these. So I've marked this morning that I've checked the feed bins and the fire extinguishers. I've left, a note of what's happened there. I've saved that, and so it's put my initials by them. So again, we can then pop back through the history in the future to see who did what on what day and any notes which were left. So I've noticed that my pony nut bin is cracked, so I've left a note for that, and I've then created a task on the task manager and assigned that to a particular staff member. So again, I can show that that was done and it was checked, and then I can see when the task was completed and the feed bin was there. So again, depends how sort of advanced or how far you want to go with your record keeping, but you could really show that you've gone through a full process of checking and maintaining those things. And it also means things don't get forgotten as easily, hopefully. Cool. And then the last one I was going to demo today was our report generator. So there's lots of obviously ways you can report on this data if you're collecting it all digitally. Hopefully it means you don't need to get your calculator out like you probably have to with your paperwork quite often. But again, there's lots of things for seeing when riders last booked a view or when they last updated their information. So obviously last updated is really helpful. If someone hasn't updated their info for a year, you can generate a list of these and then send them an email and just say, can you please update your information? Again, I can see when riders last booked. There's parts of that of, if someone hasn't been back in 3 months, you might want to send them a little prompt, just say, can we encourage you back or offer a discount if they do, see why they've stopped coming. But also the same aspect, if someone hasn't been with you for 2 or 3 years, you may not want to keep their account active anymore. You might want to start thinking about, can I delete that information and clear that up for GDPR? Again, you need to think about your insurance versus, do you actually need to keep that information? There's lots of other things on here as well. Like I mentioned, obviously reporting on the incidents we last looked at, the tasks and other things that you've assigned to your livery, the bookings and things that are on there as well. So that was a whistle stop tool. Like I said, there's lots and lots of other tools on here as well. That's sort of just a quick summary of some of the bits we have. Hopefully I can slideshow that again. Does that still look okay to everybody?
Yep.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, pop through the demo. So yeah, like I said, I've flown through that a little bit quicker than I'd planned. But yeah, any questions from anybody or anything that anyone would like me to go through?
Just get the chat up. If anyone wants to ask a question in chat, they're welcome to. And so Jack, I've been to a couple of inspections recently on behalf of my sort of schools,
Hmm.
and the inspectors after a lot of records. Can you produce a kind of overarching record that would satisfy the inspector? Or is it something you can produce as a report you can send to them? Because often they want to see the records before the inspection.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with our system in particular, you can create as many sort of admin accounts as you like, and then you can set the level of access you've got. So obviously, if you wanted to make an account for the inspector and say you can only view our horse records, but you can't change anything, you can't see our bookings, you can't see our riders, just give them that information you need, you can do that in advance. Um, the idea with those sort of horse records is they're designed that you can just see exactly what's happened to that horse for the last year. So hopefully they can just flick through the sort of key information which is in there. But yeah, I mean, it's been built around the feedback we've had from people for their inspection. So I think we've got most things covered in there, although the rules seem to change very frequently as well.
And can you produce a PDF the records that you can email to them?
Yeah, the whole thing's printable. So obviously, if you want to make your own sort of views on how it looks, you can then print those out. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
We
Has
just
anybody got any other questions?
So we've got one. Yeah, can I take bookings through here? So yeah, our system allows you to take bookings. You can either have it set up as like an admin only mode, so you book people in on their behalf, or obviously the way you get sort of the most time saving from it is you can let customers book in. So yeah, if you're interested, I'm more than happy to do sort of a demo of the booking side of things and how that ties into it. Obviously, by putting all the bookings in there, we know how many hours the horses are doing, which horses are being used at which time, and things like that as well. So we can help report on that.
Can you show the customer booking interface?
Sure. Yeah. Let me pop back on the other screen. Cool. There we go. I don't know why it keeps hiding the chat for me whenever I zoom into this, but yeah, so if I pop in to the booking manager, this is the admin interface for this. So I'll zoom that out a little bit. So I can basically see exactly what's going on at what time. So at the moment, I've got a group flat lesson going on at 11. I've got two riders in here with the horses that they're riding, Ben and Cookie. I've got a group pony day going on at the same time with a different instructor in a different arena. I've got a test account with riding Dimple, and then I've got John down here as well. So I've got full control on here. It doesn't just have to be riding lessons. You can do, stable managements and other things. Obviously, the benefit with this sort of digital system is if I go through to Johnny and I try to allocate some horses, it's going to give me the information about Johnny so I can see his height, weight, and any notes or other information I've left about him on here. It's then going to show me all of the horses that I've got available at that time. So I've got Dimple down here grayed out because he's being used in that pony day at the same time. And then it's obviously going to give me the information about Ben, Cassie, and Cookie as well. So if that rider exceeds the height or weight limit or any of the suitability notes which have been left, it'll flag that up. It's also going to tell me how many hours that horse is already doing that day. So again, I might not want to select Cookie because he's already doing 2 hours. I might choose Cassie because she's done less. I can also see how many times that rider has ridden that particular horse. Again, some people like to keep them the same. Some people like to mix them up to give them more experience. Again, that's up to you. So the system can calculate what it thinks is the best horse, but obviously a lot of people prefer to do this manually because you know your horse is better than any digital system ever can. So yeah, lots of options there. So you've got full
Um, uh,
customization. It's like,
yeah. So if I was a customer coming, how would I interface with the system?
yeah, so the way we usually set this up is obviously I'm logged in as an admin, so I see a little bit more. But for the customers, they'll have a profile page where they'll create registration forms basically for each of their riders. So I've got my own in here. I will basically fill out this registration form with the key information that's needed. I pop my height and weight in here and any sort of injuries, medical conditions, or any other things which may affect their ability to ride. Again, this can all be changed, so it's what information you need basically. Pop in your experience capabilities. And on the next page, then you'll put your terms and conditions in and you'll get the rider tick and sign against the pad. I won't bother saving this for now, but in essence, you have the rider registration form for each of the customers. They'll then go through to their calendar. This isn't going to look particularly interesting because I don't have a lot on here, but this will basically show them the bookings which are available for them on certain days based on their height, weight, availability, and other factors as well. So we can see these are the slots that I just showed you on Monday. You can see one of my children called Intro is booked in today for that group pony day, and I'm booked in the afternoon for the group flat lesson. I could book the other children on my account into the other lessons if I wanted to from here.
And that would include private lessons or whatever intermediate lessons. It would scale them to your skill.
Exactly, yeah. So I've got a child in my account which has been marked as introductory, can only do lead rein. So again, it showed me which of the lessons are suitable for introductory riders and which ones are lead rein. So I can select those if I like. And then myself, I'm rated as level 2, so I can see some of those level 2 slots as well.
Okay, cool. There was some questions in the chat. Yeah, can I take a booking through here?
Hello,
Yeah.
Jay. This is Wendy here. Um, in full transparency, my IT skills are pretty negligible, and I have to say that probably at the beginning I was fully engaged, and then my brain seemed to switch off. So,
Fair enough.
because there just seemed to be such a, when you was running through the group and the pony and the flat and the people and the weights and the heights, and
Mhm.
it all got a bit, oh my God. Um,
Sorry. Right.
No, it's me. I'm sure it's not you. It's just me. But there seems to be an awful lot of input that would be needed from me. Or am I missing when somebody does their registration,
Mhm.
does that automatically go on the system? So if Fred wants to book a group flat, would
Yeah.
his information just automatically come out, or would I have to start going back to Jack and finding out that information for him? And then,
No,
I
it's
mean, I just,
all automated for you. The
right,
customer would fill in the registration form themselves, then all their information would show up on here. So you would create the
okay,
slots that you want people to be able to book, either your flats, your group lessons, or
yeah,
any other events,
okay,
and then the
um,
system would work that out.
okay. And my other query was, you was before we went on to the booking side,
Mm.
went from George's question, um, could you use the system simply for the licensing requirement and not have the booking side, or is it all part of?
No, so we offer both. We do have some
It's
people who
two
just use
two packages type thing.
yeah, we offer a reduced price package for just the sort of horse equipment rider details
Right.
package that some people
Because
use.
okay, because now I'm going to be absolutely transparent. So
Hmm.
bear with me, everyone.
Sure.
I'm already on EC Pro,
Hmm.
and I don't find it the easiest system. And I'm not just saying that because it's Jack and Johnson and this is your thing, but I do find, because I just said my IT skills are very limited,
Sure.
and I find it rather overwhelming at times. And so I am only using it in the main for bookings.
Hmm.
I'm not actually using the package that it's probably designed for. And I've got my license visit, just the horses, not the full blown one, because that's not for a couple of years yet. But I do
Sure.
have a license visit, the horse look over on Thursday, where he's going to be looking for hours. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I've done it right. So my query is to your system does seem simpler, but I don't know if I'm just trying to be nice.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
No, it's like, you do get a bit overwhelmed with packages. This one does this and this one
Mhm.
does that. And so you get into a bit of oh my God, which one's going to be better for me? But so I don't really know. And of course, the other answer would be, or question would be, I think I've got about 3,000 people on my EC Pro registration.
Mhm.
So would all 3,000 people have to then re-register if I chose to
Yeah.
move?
Yeah.
They
So I
would.
mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple of things there I'll pull out. So
There's no
yeah.
migrating of sort of,
Yes, I mean,
system.
we've built this to be simpler. We can
Yeah.
also tailor it. So there's lots of people who don't use certain bits of the system, so we can turn them off. So there's less options for you, and we can automate or calculate other things as well. Again, we offer a free trial, so if you wanted to try it, you can do that risk-free. But yeah, we can migrate data from other platforms, and we've done that with lots of different systems. Obviously with your rider information, there's a question of how in date have you kept all of that. So in sometimes it can be a good thing to ask people to re-register because you get all of the fresh information. You only get the riders that actually are interested in riding with you come back, etc. But you can technically migrate and import that data into this if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I'll carry on listening then, and I'll turn my mic off, and
I,
I'll.
I'd make the observation, Wendy, that the data, so the data on EC Pro is your data, and
Yes.
and so they should be able to provide you your data because
Yeah.
it's your data, it's not their data. And I'm assuming if you need to do a certain level of migration, you could do that. I assume, Jack.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we can import bookings, we can import horse data and riders if we need to. Yeah, it's obviously just what
Oh, what
information can
you
you
would do that if I gave you access to my system type thing on my account? You could probably do that then.
I mean, we would prefer not to be logged
Yeah,
into
yeah,
someone else's system, but if you
yeah,
were
of
to
course.
export the data, we can import that for you. Yes.
Yeah. All right. It's just a thought, you know. It's just this is what I just need life like we all do to be a bit simpler. And sometimes I do find EC Pro can be, for me personally, just a bit overwhelming. And because I know I'm not using the system to its capacity because I just don't know how to do it. And I'm constantly sort of ringing them and emailing them the support because I don't always get it, you know. And but that's just
Sure.
me, I think, just that I'm old. All right. Anyway, I'll carry on listening.
Good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I make a comment. So on the, I support Jack at the moment, but to be clear, I think there are three or four systems on the market. All of them have got their ups and downs. There's EC Pro and Hippote. Hippote is a Finnish system, and the thing I would say about Hippote is I think it's well supported. It's quite a good system. EC Pro and Hippote are the same in which they generally charge a percentage fee. And if you've got quite a few bookings going through, that can be quite expensive because you're paying, I don't know, 3% or something like that, plus whatever your charge is for Stripe or whatever. Jack has a different process. He charges a one-off fee per month, and then you're just paying whatever you do for Stripe. Um, I reckon roughly on the other systems you can expect to be paying about £2.50 for every £50 of booking is roughly where I think it comes out in general in terms of cost. There's another system in France as well. So there are a few of them, and they've got their ups and downs, benefits and disbenefits. And I have a view about what I would do, but I think it's always worth checking with, as you would with any system, checking with multiple suppliers to get to the system you want. I don't want to badmouth any system. Um, uh, so I'd be cautious. But if you want some more advice, always give me a ring, and I can give you my unbridled
Yeah,
view
yeah.
about what
No,
I
that's
think you
it.
should do.
Well, that's why I didn't want to I don't want to start, disrespecting them because I've been with them since they started. But as I say, for me, I just looking really, this is why I've come on here today, is to see if I could find something that might suit me and my level of IT skills a little bit better. That's what you do. You shop around and have a look and see what's good at the time, don't you? So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and I mean, feel free to give me a call. I can give you
thank
some fairly unbiased views about
I,
what I would do in
that's,
your circumstance.
that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
Any other questions? So, thank you very much. So, Jack, thank you very much for your time.
It's all
What are you
right.
going to cover next time?
Oh, good question. I've forgotten, but I have it on my phone.
Oh, sorry. One thing, if you're off, then it would be nice to have some sort of costings, maybe, so that we know what we're actually, looking at. They can be emailed out, maybe, to people that are on here today, just so we know
For
what the
for
costs
Jack's
are.
system, he's agreed £135 a month. I don't think
All
he's
right.
planning to put that up at the moment. So
Okay.
it's a flat fee plus
And the
Stripe
strike,
costs.
the strike being one person, one booking. Is that what you're saying? The strike is, or
Yeah,
is
well,
that
Stripe. So when you put
or
your costs
strike?
through
Right. Yeah.
Stripe and
Yeah.
Go Compare,
Yeah.
generally they charge a flat fee
Yeah. At the
for
moment, I
the
think
transaction and a percentage.
yeah, I think at the moment my clients are paying £1. Each time they book, they pay £1 booking fee, I think. So it's about the same, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You were looking at alternative providers as well, weren't you, Jack?
Yeah, so we support Go Cardless and Stripe. Go Cardless tend to be a little bit cheaper than the card transaction fee that Stripe charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a fixed price. If you have the system without the online bookings, it's £50 per month. So if you just wanted the horse and rider registration stuff, that's cheaper. Yeah, we don't charge any booking fees or any setup fees or anything like that. It's just a fixed price.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so back to
Okay,
your other
cool.
question, George. Next one is on how you know your numbers. How can simple reports help your riding school make more money? So we'll have a look at, how you work out which lessons are actually the most profitable. Should you be doing more groups or more private lessons, things like that.
Perfect. All right. So thank you very much, Jack. Thanks everybody for joining us. and I'll put this on YouTube so you can always go back and refer to it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.